Hey everybody, it's Don with Living Chronically, a channel dedicated to staying positive and motivated while living with chronic conditions. And today's video is about resilience. So I've already talked about positivity and motivation. Those videos are up here. This one is the third part in this series about specifically the strength to get through our darkest times. That's what resilience is, generally speaking, defined as. It is the confidence in ourselves and the strategies and the skills that we use to get through challenging moments whenever life gets unbearable, whenever things go wrong, whenever we feel at our lowest points. Resilience is our ability to bounce back. It's our ability to slowly take stock of ourselves, dust ourselves off, climb out of that hole, whatever it is that we're experiencing, get through that, push forward. That's what resilience is. Now, some people are lucky enough to develop it innately. If you've had a lot of negative experiences in your life and you've also had the right support system in place, you could already have really well developed resilience skills. If you're like me, or a lot of people, you didn't have them. And you may not have them right now, and that's okay. I certainly didn't have them. I was not prepared for most of the difficult things that happened in my life, simply because I didn't really understand how life worked. I kind of wandered through my childhood and adolescence into adulthood without really ever having many extreme challenges along the way. It was basically a regular middle-class upbringing. There were things that I had to deal with, but I was always able to just ignore them or move past them or whatever without really facing down the problems. It wasn't until I was on my own out in life where I started to have these difficult times where I really realized just how lacking I was in terms of my skill set in dealing with difficult situations. And there's different kinds of resilience. Like there's resilience in friendships, there's resilience in professional capacities, there's resilience in health, there's resilience in mental health, there's resilience everywhere. There's resilience for different kinds of professions. If you do a difficult job, if you've suffered trauma, whatever, these are all different types of resilience. They are generally similar, but the resilience you need in a workplace isn't quite the same thing as the resilience you're going to need when you're living with a chronic condition. The focus is different, and what you need to focus on is different. But at the same time, resilience is a skill. So even if you don't have it, it doesn't matter because you can learn it. That's what I did. I was able to learn resilience. It was a process, I'll tell you. It was not easy. It was a situation where I had to basically drag my emotional self kicking and screaming through this gauntlet of insecurities that had plagued me my whole life and pull that part of me through all of those awful feelings and thoughts and disaster thinking and all that stuff to get to the other side where I have more control. I can look back and say, you know what? It's not actually that bad. And I'm actually able to control more my reactions now. Not perfectly, obviously. I still have good and bad moments. I still get shocked. I still, suffer the consequences of bad news. But at the same time, the amount of time that I spend thinking about those things, the amount of time that I spend feeling badly about those things is lower. And that's what's really important about resilience. The better you are at it, the stronger you get, the more practice you have using these skills, the shorter amount of time you're going to get knocked down for, and the more time you're going to spend looking at solutions, looking at making your life better, looking at making yourself feel better. Now, resilience is a little bit more complicated to talk about than motivation and positivity, because those are generally well understood terms. Resilience, because it's a little more complicated, I'm going to jump to a PowerPoint slide to show you some of the things that you can ask yourself to gauge where your resilience level is at. And in addition to that, sort of help prepare yourself for what you may need to learn about resilience, so that when something does happen or something goes wrong in your life, you have an understanding, you have some basic skills to use. Now, I'm not the kind of person who thinks that you can prepare for every potential and handle it perfectly without experiencing it. I think that the experience is part of the process. But having said that, I think I would have really, really benefited if someone had explained this concept to me before I was in crisis, so that I could have gotten a better sense of what I needed to do and think about while I was dealing with my own sort of diagnosis process and figuring out what my treatment plan was going to be and so forth. So I'm going to flip over that slide right now and then basically go from there. When you're thinking about resilience, I think asking yourself some questions related to how you respond to stress, pain, grief, and other negative emotions or reactions can really help you gauge where you're at. So the first question that I would ask myself is, are you able to remain or find a sense of calm after the initial shock of something bad happening? Do you have any specific techniques to weather that storm? And it could be anything from breathing and mindfulness exercises to meditation to talking it out with someone that you trust or care about. So if you have a support network or something like that. Do you give yourself space to experience and process what's happening without attacking yourself? Do you process your emotions in a positive way? Can you keep your thoughts grounded in reality instead of jumping to worst-case possibilities? Are you able to look at past experiences and successes you've had and use them to armor yourself against the current crisis? Are you proactive in dealing with adverse situations? So once the initial shock is over, are you able to start taking action to deal with it? And do you understand and accept the limits of your control of the situation? And again, do you have a support system? A partner, friends, family, a therapist, medical professionals, religious figures, etc., in your life that you can tap into for comfort, guidance, and acceptance. So if you've asked yourself all these questions and written down your answers, you will have a good idea of what you have and what you can work on in preparing for something that's inevitably going to happen to all of us. I think one of the things that we sometimes forget in life is, even if we don't have a chronic condition right now, someone in our life is going to be touched by something. So whether it's parents, friends, family, brothers and sisters, our partners, our spouses, our children, our, whomever, someone in our life is going to be touched by something chronic, a chronic disease, a diagnosis for some sort of an illness that could potentially be fatal or terminal, or just wear and tear from old age. As people get older, health issues come up and we have to kind of deal with those, right? So the more we think about these things earlier, the better prepared we are for when they inevitably happen. Now, for anything that you don't have an answer for, if you're not sure about, those are things to do some research on. Read up on the subject, do some website searches. I'll put some resources in the description below so that you can get started. Ask around, talk to some friends, some family, people who've gone through similar situations. They may have some advice, guidance, or resources that you can access as well. Or, you could just check out YouTube and channels like mine where people talk about their experiences and how they build themselves up and how they manage to deal with all this stuff. Because it's really important. The more information you have, the more perspectives you have, the greater your resources are, the greater toolkit you have to access and use when you need it. And the last thing I'm going to say is, while you're doing all of this, no matter how many or how few of those questions you had an answer for, always look back at what you've done in life already. Look at those difficult times that you've gotten through, challenges that you've overcome, roadblocks that you've climbed over, right? Think about that. Think about how difficult it was. Think about how long it took you. Think about what you learned along the way each time you had to progress through one of those difficult situations. If you do that, you can prove to yourself that you have the capacity, you have the ability, you have the strength, because you've already done some of this stuff. Maybe in a different context, maybe in a different way, but ultimately, the process of going through difficult things is similar no matter what you're dealing with. And you can sort of cross-pollinate your skill sets. You can use lessons you've already learned in difficult and new situations while also learning new skills and new ideas and new strategies that make you more effective as you go. So you can do it. You've already done it. But we don't always give ourselves enough credit for that. And I think that's one of the things we need to change. All right, that's enough about resilience for now. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. I believe in you, and I will see you later. Bye now.